Because I'd been through the Pentagon right after 9/11. About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who had used to work for me. And one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
And then Syria.
We had a chance to talk about a wide range of international issues, including the situation in Syria. And I have to say that all of us who've been seeing the terrible pictures coming out of Syria and Homs recently recognize it is absolutely imperative for the international community to rally and send a clear message to President Assad that it is time for a transition. It is time for that regime to move on, and it is time to stop the killing of Syrian citizens by their own government.
Lebanon.
They both had different reasons, the State Department and the White House, for wanting Israel to do it, encouraging them to do it, supporting them. Our Air Force worked very closely with the Israeli Air Force for months before this, not necessarily with a deadline, knowing when it would happen. It was always going to be whenever there was an incident, they would take advantage of an incident. The word I used was fortunate timing. When Hezbollah grabbed some of the Israeli soldiers in early July, that was then a pretext, I think that's the only word, for a major offensive that had been in the works a long time.
Libya.
Today, we can definitively say that the Gaddafi regime has come to an end. The last major regime strongholds have fallen. The new government is consolidating the control over the country, and one of the world's longest-serving dictators is no more.
Somalia.
Well, violence isn't only on the rise in Afghanistan. In fact, it looks like America's shadow wars have now increased by 1. Drone strikes have long been reported in Pakistan and Yemen, but now there's news that a week ago, a U.S. drone aircraft fired on 2 leaders of the Somalian organization Al-Shabaab.
Sudan.
President Obama is sending 100 combat-equipped troops to Central Africa to advise local forces on getting rid of one of the continent's most vicious operatives, Joseph Kony, the head of the Lord's Resistance Army, a group responsible for atrocities across the region. It's the first open deployment of U.S. ground combat power to Africa since the Black Hawk Down incident in Somalia in the 1990s that killed 18 troops. U.S. troops may wind up now in Uganda, South Sudan, the Central African Republic, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It's part of a growing military effort to engage in Africa.
Finishing off Iran. I said, "Is it classified?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me." And I saw him a year or so ago, and I said, "You remember that?" He said, "Sir, I didn't show you that memo. I didn't show it to you."
I'm sorry, what did you say his name was?
I'm not going to give you his name.
So go through the countries again.
Well, starting with Iraq, then Syria and Lebanon, then Libya, then Somalia and Sudan, and then back to Iran.
All right, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakadash. Also, want to give double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS that rule well and teach for forgiveness, 100% truth. All right, so I seen this video going back to just the plans for the Middle East. I seen this on one of the elders who was going into this, and the spirit was on me to make a video on this because a lot of these wars that you see were already planned out, right? And we got to understand that the world we live in is was given to the wicked, okay? Which let's get Job 9:24 real quick. Hold on just a second. All right, this is Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the face of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Okay, this wicked is Esau. Okay, Esau's Edom. You can get that Malachi 1:4. That's the wicked the Bible speaks of, right? So to find out who will be in rulership, during these end times, okay, would be Esau, okay? And let's get the Apocrypha real quick. Let's get Second Esdras 6 and 9. All right, this is us. Second Esdras 6 and 9. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of that follow. Okay, so Esau is the end of the world. Okay, the end of this age, the end of this current kingdom that we in, that is controlled by the wicked. Okay, starting with it's talking about the so-called white man, starting with the top banking elites. Okay, that is in control of everything, right? So you see, as it was speaking on these wars, okay, they was already planned out. Okay, them being proud in their military. Okay, because they have a strong military, they can take down these governments. Okay, this is all a plan. Okay, and you see what is happening with Iran. Okay, it's all a part of their plan because this devil, he wants control of everything. Okay, and these top elites, right? Let's get this real quick. This is Micah 2:1. You see the title, woe to oppressors. Woe to them that devise iniquity, okay, that plan iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it's in the power of their hand, right? So these top elites, okay, they got, which is Esau, because you got to understand Esau's blessing was a sword, okay, and was the fatness of the earth. All right. So he's in his rulership right now, and he has the power to do these things what he's doing, and nobody can really say anything. Okay, that's why, and he runs out America. Okay, America is pretty much that's how he polices the world and pushes his policies, his legislation and all that. Okay, so it's blessing the sword because he uses these sword to weaken these other nations. Okay, to push his policies. Okay, he uses deception and all this other stuff to move on these nations, right? So it says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it's in the power of their hand. Right. So it says, and they covet fields and they take them by violence in houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house and even a man of his heritage. Okay. So this has always been how so-called Esau works. Okay. Starting with the top banking elites. Is why they go into these nations and they pretty much they lie about why they went into this particular nation, and they will say that it's mass destruction, or they'll say that they're committing humanitarianism. All these things, all these lies they tell just to justify their actions of going into it. Okay, but their real reason going into these other nations is because they covet, okay, It's always something that they want, their resources, okay, in their land. All right, for them to um push their military into these nations, okay, and pretty much force them to align, okay, with these so-called these small hats, okay, with these elites. They are small hats, okay. So as you see that these wars was planned out, and I think it was an email going on with the Epstein files that showed that they were talking about the Ukraine war years back. Okay, so you gotta understand a lot of this stuff is planned out. Okay, as a part of them pushing their new world order. Okay, because you gotta understand this devil, he's not he wants to control everything. He wants to control this whole world. All right, he just can't have enough. Right. Let's get Habakkuk 2 verse 5. This is Habakkuk 2:5. You know what? Let's start at we'll start at 1. This is Habakkuk 2:1. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I reprove. And Yahweh Bashiach answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that reader. Okay, so pretty much it's talking about these about the breakdown of these prophecies. Okay, pretty much learn these prophecies, break them down, teach one. That way they can go teach another, right? So pretty much get the understanding and then go tell somebody else. That way they can do the same thing. Okay, for the vision is yet for a point of time, but at the end it shall speak. Okay, and it's talking about these prophecies because they're speaking now. All right, they're not tearing and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come and will not tarry. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in. Okay, talking about the so-called white man, starting with the top banking elites. Okay. For it says, but the just shall live by his faith. Okay, that just is talking about the elect. Okay. Okay, so it says, verse 2 and 5, it says, yeah, also because he transgressed by wine, he's a proud man. Okay, and this devil is very proud. Okay, this devil boasts on his military. They use the mean of their sword. Okay, what is their military today to force their self on these other nations, okay, to push, okay, their policies on these other nations, okay, by the ways of the sword, okay, and they also push it by their different philosophies, as policies, and all the other stuff, okay. So it said he's a proud man, neither keep it at home, who larges his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gather unto him all nations, and heap it unto him all people. So this devil, he's in everyone's country trying to tell them what to do. Okay. This devil's a hypocrite. Okay. Because as I was reading how they were going into Assyria, and I got this pulled up, I was reading this. Where is it at? Let's go to this real quick. Let's read this. So this was what I came across. So you see, it says Jeffrey Epstein wanted more war. So they see how they trying to place it on one man, and he probably did have some, has something to do with it, but it ain't just one man. Okay, but the fact that this man is dead, they placing all this on him. Okay, we're gonna read some of it. And it says, new revelations show that Jeffrey Epstein interest extended far beyond money and sex with underage girls. Epstein used his influence to push aggressive solutions to geopolitical problems, particularly against America's and Israel's traditional adversaries. Okay, America and Israel. Okay, you started with these top elites. Okay, this is why the least of the flock is going to draw them out. Draw who out? America. Okay, America and Israel are aligned together. Okay, so it says, as more details come to light about Jeffrey Epstein, and Jeffrey Epstein, if you look up a name, that's a Jewish name. Okay, he has Jewish parents. Okay, so he's a small hat. All right. The billionaire sex trafficker is increasingly suspect of having used his wealth, influence, and connections to shape the way political power is used, particularly when it comes to foreign policies. If true, what kind of foreign policies did he favor and what goals did he hope to achieve? We can catch a glimpse of the answers from the 10 of thousands of Epstein related files released last week by the House Oversight Committee, which shows Epstein messaging with a very influential and powerful people on a slew of foreign policy topics. Epstein shared emails with former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak opposing the Iran nuclear deal and favoring military actions against Syria, expressed concern about Israel's intensifying turn away from the two-state solutions, and counseled Donald Trump advisor and China hawk Steve Bannon on how the Trump administration could best take on this leading global rival of the United States. To name a few notable topics, we're going to jump down. So it says, history repeats itself. In the files, Epstein appeared to favor more aggressive solutions to geopolitical problems. So they're trying to put all this on this one man, but we know this ain't just one man, okay? Particularly when it came to traditional adversaries of Israel, a country whose politics and national security the sex trafficker took a keen interest in. These are other disclosures shows. In 2013, for instance, as an escalating Syrian civil war threatened its Iran-friendly strongman continued grip on power, Epstein encouraged former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, a close associate and friend with whom he had been working to sell and develop Israeli weapons, to add to the mounting pressure on then President Barack Obama to military involved in the United States. Okay, so just like what you're seeing now, how Israel is, if you get let's get this real quick. I think it's let's get Lisa the Flock. All right, this is Jeremiah 50 and 45. Therefore, hear the counsel of Yahweh, Bashan Shai, that he have taken against Babylon. Okay, that Babylon's talking about America, and his purposes, that he have purposes against the land of the Chaldeans. Okay, surely the least of the flock should draw them out. That least of the flock is talking about the Amalekites. Okay, because they are the ones that's what's going to draw America in this World War III. Okay, in this conflict that was going on with Iran. Okay, shall draw them out, surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them, right? So when we go back to this right here, it says, a close associate and friend whom he had been working with to sell and develop Israeli weapons to add to the mounting pressure on then President Barack Obama to military involved the United States. Okay, trying to involve the United States will happen with Assyria. Okay, and that's why America went in there to Assyria. All right. It says time to write the wait until too late op-ed. Epstein emailed Barack on August 31, 2013. That was the day that Barack delivered a major speech responding to the news. Then Syrian President Bashar al-Assad had deployed chemical weapons against his own people, and something Obama a year earlier had said would trigger a U.S. military response. Okay, so what these devils do, okay, they pretty much make these lies up. Okay, they pretty much use crisis to push the U.S. into these into military action, all to align it with the Israelis' interests. Okay, so what they did was, this is how they drew America in it, right? It says that was the day that Barack Obama delivered a major speech responding to news that then Syria President Bashar Assad had deployed chemical weapons against his own people, something Obama a year earlier had said would trigger a U.S. military response. Okay. It says Epstein went on to advise Barack on what such an op might look like. So I went on Chat GPT. Okay. and it was talking about I got to pull it. It says Epstein was communicating with Ehud Barak, former Israeli prime minister, and his friend. He suggested pressuring President Obama to intervene military in Syria after reports that Bashar Assad used chemical weapons. He recommended writing opinion pieces that made it seem urgent and necessary for the U.S. to act. Okay, so he pretty much they created this crisis. Okay, made it seem like they were actually doing these things. Okay, for America to act upon it, right? So pretty much he said he framed the situation as a humanitarian crisis. Okay, on tax on women, children to make the case stronger for America to go over there. Okay, so this is nothing new underneath the sun. Okay, this is what these elites, these top bacon families run America. Okay, they run America. All right, and that's why you see the tiny hats and all that, because these elites are tiny hats. Okay, they all together. Okay, so they drag America into it. Okay, they how you say it, they use these crises. Okay, they make it seem something, they make it something small look bigger than it is for America to act upon it. Okay, so um it's just nothing new underneath the sun. Okay, this is what you're seeing now, right? This is what you see when America was drew into, I think it was World War One, World War Two, one of those wars, when the Balfour Declaration was put in place, when the Zionists, when they drew America into the war, okay, because they wanted the Holy Land and they made an agreement with Great Britain, okay, same thing you're seeing now, right? So it says, and all of this is pretty much, okay, is to all align with the Israelis' interests, okay? They commit these crises, they say that there's weapons of mass destruction or say all this other stuff for them to justify their actions and going in there. Okay, when that's not the real reason why they went into the lands in the first place. Okay. But the thing about it is they hypocrites, okay? Because if you see what Trump is doing to Cuba, okay, that's humanitarianism too, if I'm pronouncing that right. Okay. They're starving a nation of people out over there. Okay, but is anybody saying nothing about that? I mean, they might run it on the news, but who's going to do anything about it? Right. But soon as America hear that another country is doing it, or if they hear that the state of Israel is telling them this and that is going on, they're going to go over there. Okay, because it's based on their interests. But who's to stop America? Okay, that's why America's called that great city. Okay, that's why America's called Babylon the Great. All right. So all this truth is coming out about these devils and exposing them. Right. Let me go to let's go back to let's get Psalms 64. This is Psalm 64 and 1. It says, "Hear my voice, O power, and my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked." Okay, the secret counsel, okay, their schemes, all right, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, okay, going back to Esau. Okay, the so-called white man starting with these top banking leaks. Okay, they had these secret meetings and they search out deep wickedness, right? Who wet their tongues like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even their bitter words. Okay. And that's going to them pushing their legislation, pushing their draconian laws. Okay. Being pretty much hypocrites, man, because ain't nobody there to check them for what they're doing. Okay. So when it says they sharpen uh, who wet their tongue like a sword. Okay, they sharpen their tongue like a sword through their legislation. Okay, passing different laws. Okay, that's against the scriptures, right? That they shoot in a secret at the perfect. Suddenly they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privately. They said, "Who shall see them?" Right. Okay, so you see the wicked. They think that nobody sees the wicked schemes that they're doing. Okay, they don't think that Yahweh Bashem Yashai don't see what they're doing, which he's the one that put them up to it. He the one that set them up. Okay, but they thinking that they go into these nations and they commit false claims or false accusations or false crisis just to go in there, okay, and do what they want. Okay, because this devil wants control of everything, right? So it says they search out iniquities, okay? They search out deep wickedness, okay? Because you gotta understand these devils got all the money in the world, they can do wherever they want, okay? So the power's in their hands, okay? So all they think about is how to do some fucked up shit, right? How to control everything, okay? And one of the deep wickedness is going into that microchip, okay? They're gonna want to force everybody to get chipped, okay? Going to this new world order, right? But the Most High should shoot at them with an arrow, suddenly they should be wounded. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves, and all that see them shall flee away. So pretty much, as you see when we're watching that video, these devils are they telling on themselves. Okay, they're showing you who they are. Okay, they are the wicked that the Bible speaks of, right? Okay, so let's go to I know it's talking about the hammer, because if you get just get Jeremiah Slakia. This is Jeremiah 50 and 23. It says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? Okay, America is a hammer, right? Because it hammer all down these nations. Okay, so it says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Right. So America, which ran by Esau, has been hammering away on all these nations. Okay, they've been planning these wars against these nations to go in there. Okay, to set up, like I said, set up these false accusations, set up these false claims, these false crises to go in there to justify their actions. Okay, but now this devil is being exposed now, right? Let's get made Esau bear. This is Jeremiah 49 and 10. But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not right. So Esau is being made bare, okay, through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Shai, right? Exposing this devil, exposing how this devil move, okay? Waking up his people, okay, starting with the elect, to know how this devil is moving and who this devil is, okay? Because according to prophecy, that man of sin has to be revealed before the return of our Lord Yahweh Shai. Okay, so it's all according to prophecy of this devil being exposed, and this is what we're seeing. Okay, that's why you got these whistleblowers out here. That's why we're connecting the pieces, okay, and seeing this devil, how he just went in Venezuela, how he went in Cuba. Okay, it's wide and open. His skirt is lifted up. Okay, and that's what we're seeing. Right. So it says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Right. Okay, because Babylon is going to get destroyed. Right. It's going to say right here, Jeremiah 50 and 24, I have laid a snare for thee. Okay, and that snare is America being drawn in, okay, that least of the flock, drawing them into this World War III, okay, because they're thinking that they're going to just go on Iran, do what they do, okay, what they've been doing, okay, with these nations, all right, and they're gonna come out victorious, okay, but they so proud thinking that they're not gonna fall, right? So it said, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon. Oh, thou was not aware? Right. You wasn't aware. You didn't how you pretty sure you didn't get your ladder in, you know? So it says, thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord. The Lord had opened his armory and had brought forth the weapons of his indignation. Okay, the weapons of his indignation is talking about the nuclear missiles. Okay, the same nuclear missiles that they are building up, okay, is going to be the missiles going to take them down. Okay, because you got to understand, those weapons, the missiles are a part of Yahweh Shah weapons of his indignation. All right, so they don't know what their ladder in is. Okay, they thinking they're going to come out and they're going to pretty much take over. Okay, and that's not what's written in the scriptures. All right, let's get Isaiah. That's Isaiah 14. All right, this is Isaiah 14:12. How art thou fallen from heaven? Okay, and this is not talking about Satan being cast out. Okay, it says, how are you fallen from rulership? Okay, talking about the Edomites, because they ruling, they in their kingdom right now. So it says, how are thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, the son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nation? Okay, this word Lucifer, this simply means light bearer. Okay, because these top elites, the position that they hold, okay, they are running. This is their kingdom. Okay, so they hold that position. They hold that light of the wickedness. Okay, that's all it means. What a Lucifer means, it just simply means light barrier. All right. So it's not it's not reference to the spiritual demon Satan, but rather Esau, okay, known today as a so-called white man. Okay. So Lucifer is the way of saying morning star. Matter of fact, let's get that real quick. Going to this word Lucifer.
Strong's H 1966. Haleo. Haleo.
All right. So as you see, outline biblical uses, light barrier, shining one, morning star, Lucifer. Okay, has nothing to do with the spiritual demon Satan. All right. So at least they are compared to a type of Lucifer, because based on the position that a company occupied on the earth. Okay, that's why they are called the illuminated ones. Okay. All right. So it says, which did weaken the nations. Okay. When Americans go into these nations and they go in and they tear them down and they push their policies, they weaken these nations. Okay. They weaken the nations to where they're destroyed. Okay. There's nothing left of them. Okay. Just like when they went into Afghanistan. Okay. And then they withdrew themselves in about 2021. And this is why you see a lot of Afghanis here. Okay. Under the immigration program, is because they went over there, destroyed their shit, and left, and then the Taliban took over. Because so they go into these other lands and they weaken these other nations. Okay, especially these little nations. Okay, and they go in there and weaken the nation. So it says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, rulership, O Lucifer? Okay, you top elite, son of the morning. How thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations." Okay, so this devil is being exposed, okay, on who they really is, right? So I wanted to go into that, because that was just it's crazy how they got these wars. These wars were already planned out. Okay, they was already set up, but it's already according to prophecy, that these will happen, right? So Esau, he wants to control everything. Okay. And this is why he's trying to go into Iran. He's trying to get a regime change in Iran. Okay. For control. Right. So that's all I got. That's all I wanted to get into. But I hope this video was edifying. I want to say shalom.